Thank you to all the witnesses, and now we'd like to have a round of questions. And I'll recognize myself for 5 minutes of questions. We start with Ms. West. First of all, I want to thank you for all the work you've been doing representing victims across the United States that have been targeted by these scam centers. Like Representative Khanna, I want to just say our heart goes out to all the victims, and I understand some of the victims are here with us this morning, and we are so saddened to hear what you've been through. Ms. West, what is the one message that you want to make sure we hear from the victims of these scams?
They're not being heard. And when they are reporting to law enforcement, they are not getting any help. And that's leading them to get secondarily scammed. It's leading them to do their own research and solve their own cases, or to simply Google it and find someone who claims they can help them who is the secondary scam. And so there are ways to fix this, and that is recognizing and empowering local and state law enforcement to have the resources to meet those victims when they come through the door and provide them with the tools and training they need to do quick evaluation as to whether or not there's something that can be done with their cases.
Thank you. Mr. Sims, can you walk us through how the Chinese government deliberately pushed out the scam center operators from within China to other countries, which effectively enabled these frauds on Americans?
Yeah, so effectively, this is a result of a domestic crackdown on organized crime that happened starting several decades ago and has continued. And so what you've seen, and this is quite similar to the mode that we see today, where when these issues of crime arise to a level to where they conflict with the interests of the Chinese government, is that they take action, but that action has consistently had a displacing effect. And the origins were criminals who found their way out of mainland China and into the region and found these more permissive environments that allowed them to grow and to flourish.
Can you help us understand the direct links that the committee's investigative report found between a Chinese government-owned construction company and one of the largest scam compounds? I think this is important because it shows a direct link from the scam compounds to CCP leadership in Beijing.
Yep, absolutely. So the person in question that Ranking Member mentioned in his comments as well is Chinza, who was the head of Prince Holding Group, which Treasury has described as one of the largest transnational criminal organizations in the world. Treasury also, or Justice Department seized about $15 billion in crypto assets from them back in October. But Chinza had outstanding legal trouble in China dating well back before his scam compounds emerged. And I think back in 2018, Prince Holding Group actually contracted directly with a Chinese state-owned enterprise that we refer to in the report as Bureau 4 to construct buildings around Cambodia, including a number of the scam compounds that later came. And so this is, at bare minimum, a profound gap in scrutiny and due diligence between an apparatus of the Chinese government and what was a person who was at that point already becoming well known as a transnational criminal.
Mr. Tower, you've highlighted how Beijing has used crackdowns on scam compounds to expand its security influence in Southeast Asia. How should the United States balance cooperation with regional governments on counter-scamming operations while preventing China from leveraging these operations to deepen its own geopolitical influence?
Thank you for the question. I think what's key here is having a presence of U.S. law enforcement in the region, as well as having a range of actors partnering with the U.S., including civil society, including media, to show some of the advantages of the U.S. approach to addressing these problems. You see where China is advancing these various forms of joint law enforcement cooperation which effectively are placing Chinese police on the ground. In many cases, Chinese police then almost acting autonomously on foreign territory, pushing to enhance broader Chinese security access in many of these countries. And I think you're seeing countries on the front lines, like Thailand in particular, are coming under a lot of pressure. But also you're increasingly seeing in geostrategically important areas like the Golden Triangle region, which is the area between Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar, where China's actually far from its borders, developing even informal forms of police stations on the ground in response to this. I think what the US can do is show the advantages of US forms of policing. It can also provide and strengthen the ability of countries like Thailand to hedge as they're faced with pressure from countries like China to accept a Chinese police presence. Having the US, they're working with Thailand, working with other countries in the region, gives those countries access to US resources and know-how, while also giving US access to critical intelligence, which it can then, I think, use to approach China on these issues from more of a vantage point of strength. If the US is going and engaging China, just simply asking for help without having that intelligence, without having access to many of the devices that have been seized in cross-border operations around Thailand's borders, or in the Philippines or other countries in the region where you've also seen law enforcement demobilize large scam compounds, without having that information, I think transactionally, China is going to be demanding quite a lot for assistance. However, if the US is shining transparency, working with partners to address these issues, it can approach China from a position of strength and demand that China take action on many of these so-called foreigner butchering operations that are now increasingly targeting Americans.
Thank you very much.